All right, thank you for staying with us. Joining us is the Erelu Kuti of Lagos and the Erelu of Egbaland, the beautiful and ever gorgeous Royal Highness, Her Royal Highness Yeye Odua of the Source, Mrs. Abiola Dosunmu. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Your View this morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
Good
nice to be here.
As ever.
Good morning.
You're
Good
welcome.
Morning. Nice to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Today our focus is on culture. And that is stemming out of the fact that there was a movie, and I don't know if I can mention the name, Gangs of Lagos, Gangs of Lagos, and it has been generating reactions across, not just from the state government, but from indigenes of that part of Lagos. Now, it has to do with the use of the Eyo masquerade. I watched that movie, and from the beginning of the movie, there was a disclaimer. And then the movie went on to show how Eyo masquerade was used to address gang issues and all of it. Some persons were killed in the process. From my perspective, I watched it as normal depiction of some persons we've seen where they use pastors and some persons to depict some things that are in the negative light, so to speak. So I was watching it from that prism. But when I began to look at the reactions, I began to see that there are persons who do not take certain things lightly. And if we say we are expressing art, we must take into cognizance these persons before we put out anything. But from your perspective, ma'am, how would you react to this depiction of the use of Eyo?
Well, using Eyo in a movie or in any setting, I don't see any. If it is used in its original understanding, I do not see anything wrong.
What is the original understanding?
Well,
because
I do not see anything wrong with that at all.
Yes.
But when it's depicted, it's like you canonize the group of clerics as killers or gun spinner or whatever, then of course it's wrong, because Eyo is a heritage of a group of people. It's not just something that you can pick up and then manipulate to appear negative. You are telling me that my origin, my inheritance, my culture, my tradition, it's wrong. It's murderous. It's everything that is negative. I think it is very wrong. We have to be very careful. If you say, when you are performing an Eyo festival, a couple of them, one or two other people, took advantage and misbehaved under the cloak. But if you actually portray a festival, a culture, a cultural tradition, and ancestry of a group of people as something that's being used for violence or for getting even with one another, that is totally wrong. In any setting, in any event, you will still find one or two miscreants who would take advantage of it and under that misbehave. But to portray Eyo, because I haven't really seen it, I just saw snippets of it. But if you now portray the whole of Eyo festival as something negative, then that is too far-fetched.
Okay, so I would say that in that movie, they didn't say the whole Eyo because some Eyos were outside. Just one person who disguised to be Eyo entered a particular person's house and brought out the gun and killed the person. So now, the Isale Eko Descendants Union has frowned on this, and they're asking for cancellation. And not only them, even the Lagos State government, through the Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture, has also expressed displeasure with the promoters of the Gangs of Lagos. Would you say that?
As I said, I have not seen it. But if they have gone that far to make such demands, then there must be something terribly wrong about that movie. Because I am certain if you know, when you tell a story, you will tell that it will be quite explicit why that fellow brought out a gun. you would have prepared the mindset of the people that this one is not an authentic Eyo. This is a miscreant that is breaking the rank and file of the Eyo. Then the listener, the people watching would know that this has nothing to do with the Eyo. It is just, I haven't seen it, like I said, but we would have prepared our mind. You would have seen this fellow infiltrating. So nobody will be left under any conclusion that it has to do with the Eyo group. But it's this miscreant who, secretly or whatever, encroach into that territory. And those groups you have mentioned, I mean, you are talking about the state, you are talking about Isale Eko Descendants Union. These are very strong pillars of Lagos indigenous people and the culture and tradition of Lagos. If they find it offensive, then something is terribly wrong.
Right. Okay. Damola, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, I was going to ask Erelu what the Eyo, maybe she should, help us understand what, the Eyo heritage represents.
Because, Erelu, I've seen you talk about, the Eyo festival before. In fact, you described it as, like our Christmas. And then you talked about how you sit by the window and you count the cars on Lagos streets. And then you would, even write down the numbers, how Lagos was something you always, enjoyed, and how Isale Eko in itself from Friday till Sunday, it's fun. You didn't need to go to any club and all that. So would you like to expatiate?
Well, those are beautiful, fond memories that are they have disappeared way into almost oblivion. But talking about the Eyo, most people confuse the origin of the Eyo. People are, arrogated to things from different places. Maybe there are similarity, but there's something very authentic about it that is Lagos. The first Eyo was staged by Erelu Kuti first as a final funeral rite for her mother, Queen Olugbani, the wife of King Ado. And the fetish came from Olugbani, the wife of King Ado, who actually was the daughter of King Oshin from Ibefun. And so for her final funeral rite, fetish was sent from her parents' house to Lagos to be part of her final funeral rite. And because Lagos people were not used to fetish that are covered in secrecy and all that, so people were curious. And I think it was Oba Akishimoye at the time that, at the time, who now put together a group of young, strong men in the neighborhood who were giving coverings for their faces and giving a pambata to ward off those people who wanted to molest the fetish. That was how it started. And they were called Okolaba. That's why the Okolaba, if you know them, they wear red hats during the Eyo, and they will tell you that the first Eyo, because they were the first group that protected the fetish. And they are the ones who will say, Mo Yofu, Mo Yofu Rami. So they were the first Eyo. But subsequently, when you celebrate a passage of another Oba or any dignitary, they will now come up with their own group to protect the mortage, for the funeral mortage for the deceased person. And automatically after that, they become part of the Eyo group. So they keep escalating in numbers. So apart from the very first one, Okolaba, for instance, we had your Benson. Okay. And the mortage of the funeral of Benson will have their own group. So once that Eyo is over, they become Eyo group. So the next time you have an Eyo, they will come out as a group with the Okolaba to be, and of course you can imagine how many numbers we have now. That's why you have your group that are so big and different colors. How you know which group is which is from the colors of their aga, their hats. Okay. So once you come in for your own funeral rites, you pick up a color for your own aga. And you make up the rank and file of your group. That's how it started. So it was something that we use to honor our illustrious ancestors. And also we use it sometimes to celebrate something very special, like crowning of a new king. So Eyo is something very special. It's been part of our heritage.
So they don't come up for wedding ceremonies as it was depicted?
No, we don't. You see, when somebody said, oh, for a long time it was banned, that's not true at all, because we never had, and because it's also very expensive. So any family that wants to celebrate the Eyo festival must be ready. And sometimes it takes a long time before you have somebody capable to actually stage Eyo festival. Right. We see more of it now because sometimes the state government give support and pay for it. So you will see. Otherwise, for 20 years, you may not see an Eyo play. All right. So, you know, unless somebody capable and we can afford comes forward and asks if they could stage an Eyo festival.
All right.
You know.
So, I wanted to ask, like, is there, for filmmakers, to avoid issues like this, is there a body you can go to get approval to use, like, the Eyo masquerade in your movies, just like the Fela estates now? You can't use, or you can't even use a song or a line from the Fela
royalty,
without taking permission from the family. So is there something like that that filmmakers or festival people?
We have rules guarding the Eyo festival. The Eyo festival, you need to have firm permission, consent from the palace, headed by the Oba, before you can do anything with the Eyo. Although now you see people using it at weddings, just mismanaging the whole system. They have no right. But unfortunately, the deterrent, the control of the deterrent is very weak at this point in time. So people take advantage and just do whatever. Otherwise, no Eyo should come out without consent from the head of the Eyo house, the head of the Adimu house. And of course, the paramount consent comes from the Oba. From the Oba and the head of the Eyo Adimu.
All right.
You know, we have a chief that is chief of the Eyo, and he hails from the Adimu compound. And no one should perform anything concerning Eyo at weddings or taking them to other places without consent. And I think I'm going to use this medium to appeal to that chief and that conclave, and of course with the support of the state government, that we should stop this proliferation of Eyo show.
All right,
all over the place.
You're saying that they come from a particular enclave. Is it that it comes from a particular family line, or anybody can be a part of it?
No. As I told you, that it came from the family of Queen Olugbani, the wife of King Ado. So those people who are still taking care of the fetish of the Eyo are still descendants from that family.
So it's difficult to break the ranks.
You cannot break the ranks. It's very well established, very well known who are the custodians.
Okay.
Very clear, very well known. There's no ambiguity.
Okay.
I've had so many reasons being propagated as the beginning of Eyos. But the beginning of Eyo is very clear. There are still custodians of it. They still exist, and they are descended from the same family over time. And they exist in Lagos Island.
Okay, within the family, is there a particular, how would they know who carried the Eyo and to Magbeyo? Must it be the eldest, or they would actually consult the oracle to know this is the person that is going to carry the Eyo for this particular family?
Then you have to invite the Alapini and the heads of this conclave to tell you that.
Oh, wow.
Because these are parts of their own heritage that they guard jealously. And if they decide to now come and tell you about it here, I wouldn't even know how it's done.
Okay, interesting.
You know, but it is the prerogative of each conclave. I mean, we have 4 major areas. with their own conclaves, but they are all still descendants of the family of Olugbani, Queen Olugbani. You have Adimu, you have Oniko, you have Ologede, and then of course a newer addition is the Agiri. But those original fetish, they all have their conclaves, they all have their leaders, but under the umbrella of the Oba.
All right, one quick question that we would want to ask is, how do we guard our heritage and culture as it is? One quick question. And then, Honeypot, you quickly ask.
Okay. Well, as you can see, we have rules, we have custodians of this culture and tradition. Unless we put a proper deterrent in place, guarded by the law of the state, we're going to continue to have this proliferation and desecration of our culture and tradition, which is very sad. All right.
So you've talked about the desecration of our culture. And since you're about culture heavily, I'd like to know, because these days people say, oh, our cultures are going into extinction, you know, things are not being done, as you have said, as they used to be in the past and all that. I really want to know, I mean, looking at it holistically, what would you say is the cause for this? I mean, the deterioration, and then how can we uphold all cultures in general in Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I would not agree that our culture is going into extinction. Our culture, actually, I know of Lagos, is still very much intact. And you have custodians of those culture. But unfortunately, the younger people, and you see, they forget that some of us can boast of 5, 6, 7 generations of educated ancestors. But the younger people feel this is beneath them. Culture is not something, well, in fact, I must correct myself. It used to be, we used to think culture is beneath our consideration. Okay. It's for the unlettered, the ugly, the fat, the dirty, and all that, you know, anything that's negative, we should leave culture to them. But I'm glad to see that the younger people, there is a new renaissance and awareness of culture and tradition now. And that's why we could talk about this your thing, although I don't think she did her research properly. If she did, I'm sure that using Eyo would have been portrayed in a different light. But she probably didn't do her homework. Right. But so I'm glad that you have new awareness and new interest, but they still need to do a lot of research, which is something that is lacking in this country. We don't do detailed research into any subjects that we want to work on.
Before we let you go, we want you to tell us about your title, the Erelu Kuti of Lagos and Yeye Odua of the Source.
And Erelu of Egba.
I thought I've spoken about this so many times in the past.
Just to wrap up the conversation, yes.
You know, Erelu of Egbaland. My mother is from Egbalake, a princess of Egbaland. And of course, when I became Erelu Kuti, the queen mother of Lagos, my mother's family sort of became jealous and said, well, you know, you know, that she also has, her mother's side is also royalty, and we need to honor her. And that Erelu of Egbaland was created for me as a royal title. Wow. Because they couldn't just give me a chieftain title. I was born a princess, I became a queen mother. So to honor me, you have to give me something totally different. So Erelu of Egbaland, usually you have Erelus in Egba, they are usually wives of chiefs. Yes. So this particular one was created for me, and I'm the very first person to hold the Erelu of Egbaland. All right. Now, that's Egbaland. Okay. And then, of course, you know the Lagos, I'm Erelu Kuti the fourth. Yes. So you've had the Erelus before me in Lagos. But what it does is she is the one who created this royal dynasty we've been enjoying for several decades. Because when she had 2 brothers, they died. Maybe the one that died before her didn't have male children, or they were too young. But anyway, she crowned her 2 sons one day, one as the king of Lagos and one as Gbeni of Lagos.
All right.
So that's how she...
We have to leave the conversation.
Okay.
It's such a short time, but interesting. We must thank you, Erelu Kuti of Lagos, Erelu of Egbaland, the ever gracious and beautiful.
And another subject for another day will be the Yeye Odua.
Yeye Odua of the source of Yoruba land.
Of the Yoruba source, of the Yoruba race. And that for me, it's one of the greatest honor I've ever had. So far, I'm glad we didn't talk about it today.
All right,
so
because
we'll
we
make it
wouldn't
a
have the
subject
time
for
to do
another
so.
time. Yes.
Our Royal Highness, Mrs. Abiola Dosunmu, thank you for your time in the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right, we will take a break. When we return, we'll be... All right. Okay. Unfortunately, we do not have time. We have to wrap things up now. But we wanted Damola and Damilola to perhaps talk to our audience, but I guess they will be seeing us again next week when we'll come again for another edition of the program, Your View During the Weekend. Bye for now and stay safe. Bye.